Hello, my friends, and anybody who may not be my friends or may be my friends, newcomers to the channel or my old subscribers. This isn't my usual topic of speech, but I really feel the need to talk about what's going on right now in Iran. The fact that the United States decided to assassinate a second in command of, of a nation like Iran, it really shows the incompetence of the administration. And I feel like talking about this subject, of course, brings out all types of bipartisan bullshit. Get over it. If you're already sensitive Sally hitting the thumbs down or commenting about how Trump's going to save the world, save it. Just save it. It doesn't matter. We're not here talking about one politician or another. I'm not here talking about whether Trump is a Republican or a conservative or whether Hillary Clinton would have been better. I've had problems with every president, Obama included, every single president. Bill Clinton, George Bush, they've all had their issues, but Trump by far has, I've been pretty quiet most of the time about his decisions. I know that there is a certain vitriol and hatred towards him, so therefore I just say, hey, whatever. I'm going to let the system play itself out and see what happens. However, this is different. He decided by himself to, of course, at the advice of probably some of his warmongering generals, to strike and kill Soleimani, however you pronounce his name. This was the second in command in Iran, under, I believe it's the Ayatollah. This was a guy who had been protecting Iran and had been a leader of the Quds forces for, 30 plus years, right? The whole nation mourned his death, and is still mourning his death. And we decided to blow him up as he was leaving the airport with a missile. Now, I want people to think about this for a minute. If you're the kind of person who is right now thinking, yeah, well, whatever, he's just another Iraqi, we should have got him and it's good that we got him. I want you to realize that this is an act of war and terrorism. This is an act of it was an assassination. The thing is, he could have been taken out at any time over the past 30 years. Several times. Other presidents have had opportunities and have refrained, knowing that if you kill basically the vice president, who is also the military leader in a nation like that, you are openly declaring a war on a sovereign nation. And Iran is a lot more powerful than people realize. But I really don't want to get into too many details here. I just want people to realize the facade and the bullshit that's being played here. If you're not aware that in the 80s there was an issue with a bunch of U.S. diplomats that were, kidnapped. There were 52 of them, in the 80s. And Trump made this declaration the other day that he would strike 52 of their cultural heritage sites. This is a complete abomination of the Geneva Convention, various protocols. It goes against international law in protecting cultural heritage sites. What you're basically doing is threatening to destroy the public's connection to its past. And what do you think happens when you do that? Well, basically that's what we've done in Iraq. And a lot of people have to rebuild their history and have turned against the U.S. military, just like Iran. But Iran has never had their borders breached in that way. They protect themselves. And a lot of Americans are very ignorant about the fact that Iran is a very unique country. And they're not just another Middle Eastern country. They speak unique language. They speak unique dialect. They have their own unique cultures and customs. And by threatening to blow up those cultures and those icons, it's a huge threat. Not only did they threaten to blow up 52 of those icons, but yesterday morning, or maybe it was this morning, from a Utah air base, 2 joint air bases actually, they launched in what they call the elephant formation, where it's basically front to back. They launched 52 F-35A bombers, fighter jets rather, which they launched 52 by chance. The guy who was interviewed down there said, it's just by chance we launched 52 of them, even though Trump had threatened a couple days before to blow up 52 of their heritage sites. This was a show of force, And I think that this is completely uncalled for in 2020, in the world that we're living in right now, that we have to put up with this kind of bullshit. And if you're still stuck on the partisan issues of defending Trump, get over it. Seriously, this is completely beyond politics. This is a declaration of war. Who is going to pay the price? The American people. We've been sending over thousands of troops over there. Hundreds of troops had to leave from Fort Bragg on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. They were just deployed out of the blue. Why? Oh, just to protect, to make sure that we're okay down there, you know. And the question being, is it worth sending more troops into danger zone in order to supposedly protect American interests? And this is so frustrating for people. You know, when Trump said, we did this to stop a war, not to start a war, he actually said that. And I just cringed, because I originally wanted to sit down and make a video about how I want to move out into the woods and start a cabin and buy a piece of land and, you know, live my life. But the thing is, you can never escape these. The irony is that I'm talking about now something that you cannot escape from, no matter where you move. You know, the threat of somebody else coming and you know, bombing or poisoning or destroying your society because you've destroyed theirs. And this has to end eventually. The cost to American taxpayers just to fly all these fighter jets up to make a show of force, the cost to the American taxpayers to send over, and to lives of the American troops and their families, to send these guys out of the blue, guys and girls, not just guys of course, over to the Middle East to fight for what? And they're probably saying, well, what are we going over here for? Just because we killed somebody, which Trump said that they had active intelligence that he was planning attacks on Americans. And I would like to ask anybody who's defending that point of view to say, do you think that's going to stop now? Do you think killing the general that was helping to plan these attacks is going to stop any of them? Or would it possibly increase them tenfold? Because I'd like to ask you what you think would happen if somebody came and killed our vice president, or killed our top general in our, you know, while he was on a trip somewhere in his car, and a missile comes down and boom. These aren't people in the desert that don't have any firepower. These aren't unintelligent people. If you see interviews with Iranian diplomats, they are highly intelligent and capable individuals. And I hate to say it, you know, I respect the country I live in, I just don't respect the way the government is treating the people, because most people are opposed to this. Do not want us to be blowing up Iranian generals, and we do want the American troops to be coming home and to stop this bullshit. They just sent a bunch of bombers over to, you know, some island over by India, which is just out of reach of Iran. You know, I mean, it's a direct threat. We are directly instigating war with Iran. And for what? What have they done on our soil that warrants this kind of attack? I still haven't heard anybody really give an answer to that. If you ask anybody who is one of the blind loyalists, they'll say, well, you know, well, they're just over there. They always hated America, and they've always burned our flags, and they just say death to America. It's true. It's fucked up. Iran burns flags all the time and says death to America. Okay, well, how do we change that? Through diplomacy, through understanding, or through blowing up their top leaders? It's a good question. I would say that, if anything, we are buying into the propaganda that everyone hates us, and it allows us to go in and attack who we want. But it's not us, it's our government. It's the military-industrial complex selling weapons to some of these very people, and it's so frustrating to watch happen. We break the rules of war by assassinating people and then threatening their cultural sites, and that is wrong. The idea that you're trying to stop a war is not reflected in the actions. And during a re-election year, it makes you wonder, right? Is this a distraction? You know, everybody says that. There always something like this happens during a re-election year. Somebody wants to be the savior when some big chaotic thing happens. And you know what the truth is? If Iran does attack, we will win. We are the mayor. Of course, we have a lot more weapons. We can annihilate them. Is that going to help the future of humanity or the Middle East or us? No, I don't think it will. I would like to see our money used to build our infrastructure, fix our own country. Instead of building bombs, build bridges. Try fixing things instead of destroying them. I remember when Mike Pompeo was interviewed the other day asking about this incident. He said that they want Iran to behave like a normal nation. And that really stuck out to me. I thought, really? That is the most offensive thing you can say. What is a normal nation? Is a normal nation a colonial nation? Is it Israel, where the U.S. just funds them with military and weapons, and a lot of resentment gets built towards them? When most people, most citizens just want to live their lives, and others are coming in and telling them where they can and can't live, where to build walls, who can have missiles, who can have nuclear weapons, and who can't. Trying to stop Iran from building nukes by pulling out of a deal that they were abiding by, according to every other group, and then saying that they're the cheaters and blaming them for things that happened to America, you know. And meanwhile, countries like Israel are allowed to have nukes. So what exactly does this mean? It's up to you to decide, right, as an individual. There was a letter released the other day that said we were withdrawing from Iraq. And it was the draft that was sent out supposedly on accident. And they'd retracted it and claimed that, it wasn't meant to be sent out, it was just a draft in case. But this letter declared that we were removing our troops. And I'm sure Americans are probably there are plenty of those letters ready. I don't know if it was legitimate or not, if it just leaked so they're trying to cover their asses. But it's a mess over there. A complete mess. And if you personally don't know somebody, if you're in support of us being in the Middle East and you have never had any family or friends who have been there, you have no clue. The people who come back from there are well aware of that we don't need to be there, that we shouldn't be there, that different cultures, different areas are going to work out their own problems, and that we don't have some monopoly on what's true or who should have weapons. But those are my opinions. If you want to deploy thousands of troops over to the Middle East to fight an invisible war for resources, then go ahead. But I'm just here to speak my mind on it because I think it's total bullshit. So shame on the Trump administration, shame on Trump himself, and shame on those who support this kind of bullshit. If you have a son over there, you might understand. The best meme I've seen lately was a picture of an Army recruiting office. And it said, hey, Trump supporters, where are your sons? Why aren't you sending? Where are your sons sons and daughters waiting to sign up to go to Iran? People just don't get it. Just sit behind a screen and talk big, but they're not the ones doing the fighting. You go ahead and bring some soldiers on your side. See how many of them will stand up and stand by your side. Anyhow, thanks for listening. I'm obviously anti-war. I very highly oppose it. I think we have a moral obligation to do better. And I'll talk to y'all later. Be well.